Hi guys, welcome to my channel. In my channel we provide the in-depth knowledge of different programming languages which differentiate you with others. In our series of classes on object in Python, today we are going to discuss something known as object initialization. As the topic suggests, here we will learn how to initialize an object. There are two ways to initialize an object. Now, why there is a need to initialize an object? Now, suppose let's take an example. You are having a class called number, which is having one num as a data member. Now, and you are having one member function called fact, which is used to calculate the factorial of a number. Now, what our logic or common sense says, before calling the fact function with object, that object should be properly initialized, or it should be properly initialized with the number whose factorial you want to calculate. If you will not initialize properly, then fact function will work on uninitialized object, which will not give you the desired result. Now, there are two ways to initialize an object. First is using getData or setData, or second using a special method __init__. Now let's see one by one. Now getData can receive data from the keyboard into instance data variable, whereas setData can set up instance data with a value that it receives. The benefit of this method is that data remains protected from manipulation from outside the class. That we have already discussed. We have seen the employee class, in which we are having the setData method, which is receiving three variables and initialize name, age and salary. Same thing we can do with the help of getData. In getData we can scan the values from the standard input device that is known as keyboard. Now in both the cases, what we have to do, we have to call this function explicitly, or these functions are called by the user explicitly. Now imagine a situation if suppose user forget to call this function and he directly call e1.displayData, then the user will not get the desired result. Why? Because when user call e1.displayData, that object is not properly initialized. Why? Because user has forgot to call e1.setData. There may be chance, na? Because these functions are called explicitly, getData and setData, called by the user. But __init ___ method is a special kind of member function which invoked implicitly whenever an object is created. Not only in Python, whether we talk about C++ or Java or any object-oriented programming language in which we learn classes and object, there is a special kind of member function. Some says constructor, like C++ and Java says constructor, where the class name and the member function name is same. So that member function becomes the constructor of a class. What is constructor? Constructor is a special kind of member function which invokes implicitly whenever an object is created. Use of this construct is to initialize the data member of a class. Same thing, Python doesn't say कि class name and member function should be named. What Python says, the member function name should be __init__. This is a special kind of member function which invokes automatically or implicitly whenever an object is created. The benefit of initialize an object using special method __init__ is that it guarantees initialization, since __init__ is implicitly called when an object is created. Now let's take an example. As we have discussed, there is a class called number. What is number? Number is a user defined class. Here we are having one setData method which is initialize the member of the class. Then we are having fact function. Here we will write the logic to calculate the factorial of a number. Now when I write obj is equal to number, what happens? One nameless object is created which will be referred by obj. Then obj dot set data, we are passing 5, that 5 will be initialized, then num, then obj dot fact, it will display the factorial of 5, that you will get the output 120. Now imagine a situation, user forget to call this member function. Which member function? Obj dot set data. User directly write obj equal to number, then directly user called obj dot then fact. Then what happens? User will not get the desired result. No compilation error, but user will not get the desired result. Now if I insert a special member function, which one? This one, underscore init self comma a equal to 5. What we are writing? A equal to 5. This is an example of default argument. This we have already learned in C++ also. What is a default argument? Default argument is a value which is automatically inserted if we are not passing at the time of function call. Means if we will not pass any value at the time of function call and we have declared that parameter as default with some value, so that value is automatically insert inside the member function call. So when I write obj equal to number, what happen? An object of number class will be created and special kind of member function underscore init underscore will implicitly call and it will initialize that num equal to 5. Now if user forget to call this obj dot set data, now if user called this obj dot set data with 10 value, so this 5 will be overwritten. But if user forget to call this member function, so it is by default initialized with 5. Now if user called obj dot fact, so he will get 120 or desired result. Now what we this init underscore init method does, it automatically invoked and initialize the data member of a class. So usually init function is used to initialize the data member of a class. It is implicitly invoked whenever an object is created. Now let's take an example here. Here we are having an employee class set data which is initializing name, age and salary. Then display data, it is displaying name, age and salary. Fine. Now when I write E1 equal to employee, E1 dot set data RAM 25 and 10,000, E1 dot display data, you are getting the desired result RAM 25 and 10,000. Now again imagine a situation, user forget to call this E1 dot set data, then what happens? You will not get the desired result. But if I insert one method called underscore init underscore, then it will initialize the value a equal to null string, b equal to 0 and c is equal to 0. Now if user forget to call e1 dot set data RAM 25 and 10,000 and directly it call e1 dot display underscore data, so he will get at least null, b equal to 0 and c is equal to 0. Why? Because whenever an object is created, a special kind of member function is automatically or implicitly invoked, in which we initialize the value with some default values. Fine. So what is the basic difference between set data and underscore init underscore? Both are member of employee class. The only and the only difference is what? This set data is explicitly called by the user, whereas underscore init underscore it's implicitly called by the machine whenever an object is created. Set data can be called n number of times, whereas init can be only called once when an object is created. Fine. So basically init method is used to initialize the data member of a class. Now let's see some more points. Now what is none here? None means nothing. It will stop referring to a nameless object which is created when I write e1 equal to employee or e2 equal to employee. In the above program, two nameless objects created which is referred by the e1 and e2. In both the cases underscore underscore init underscore underscore is implicitly called. We have already gone through what is underscore underscore init underscore is a special kind of member function which is automatically or implicitly invoked whenever an object is created. If we create 10 objects, this init method will be called 10 times. Fine. Whenever an object is created, space is allocated for it in the memory and underscore underscore init underscore underscore is called. So the address of the object is passed to the init method. As we have already discussed, set data and init are both same. One is implicitly called and one is explicitly called. Both are used to initialize the data member of a class. Underscore under init parameters can have default values. Underscore underscore same thing is applicable to set data also. Underscore underscore init does not return any value. This point is very important. Set data can return some value. Why? Because it is explicitly called, whereas underscore underscore init does not return any value. Why underscore underscore init does not return any value? Tell me. See here. Now where you receive the return value? When you call a function. Now when you call set data function, if it returns some value, you can receive in a variable. But this underscore underscore init is implicitly called. If it is called implicitly, so returning a value would not make any sense. Why? Because if you cannot call this explicitly, then what happens? Where you will receive the return value. That is why this constructor doesn't have any return value, where it is a C++ or Java or Python. This is again an interview question, why constructors cannot have return value. The only answer of this question is these methods are implicitly called. Returning a value would not make any sense. Why? Because we receive the value which is written from the function at the place where function call is made. But these functions are implicitly called, so returning a value would not make any sense. Fine. If we do not define init, then Python inserts a default init method in our class. Again, it's a common sense. Why? Because what we have learned, whenever an object is created, a special kind of member function init is implicitly called. अब कॉल कब होगा? जब होगा. अगर आप इंसर्ट नहीं करोगे तो Python will insert that method. Ultimately कॉल तो तभी होगा जब होगा. अगर आप इंसर्ट नहीं करोगे तो Python इंसर्ट करेगा, और अगर आप इंसर्ट कर दोगे तो Python इंसर्ट नहीं करेगा. Ultimately init method तो रहना ही रहना है. Why? Because under object oriented programming language, whether it's a C++ or Java or Python or any damn object oriented programming language, whenever an object is created, a special kind of member function is implicitly invoked by the compiler to initialize the data member of a class. Because what rule says, before making any function call, any member function call on an object, that object should be properly created. That just we have seen the example of number class. Until or unless that num is properly initialized, object.fact would not make any sense. You will not get any desired result. And there are two ways, either using set data or get data, or either using init. Set data and get data are set data and get data are explicitly called. So there may be chance user forget to call that member function. Then if user says object.fact, so he will not get the desired result. But init is a method, it's a special kind of member function. Why it is a special kind of member function? Because these functions are implicitly called by the compiler or Python. Fine. Init is called only once during the entire life cycle of an object. कॉमन सेंस वाली बात है, क्योंकि अभी अपन क्या पढ़े हैं कि whenever an object is created, और एक ऑब्जेक्ट कितनी बार क्रिएट हो सकता है? नो डाउट वन टाइम. वी कैन क्रिएट n नंबर ऑफ ऑब्जेक्ट्स, बट वंस एक ऑब्जेक्ट एक ही बार क्रिएट हो सकता है. एक ऑब्जेक्ट को दो बार आप क्रिएट नहीं कर सकते. ठीक है. अ क्लास कैन हैव बोथ init एज वेल एज set data मेथड. नो डाउट. फाइन. Another called special kind of member function __del__ method gets called implicitly when an object goes out of the scope, usually cleanup activities if any is done in this method. Same thing like constructors, we are having destructors in C++. What is destructor? Destructor is a special kind of member function which invoke implicitly whenever an object is destroyed. और object destroy कब होता है? When it goes out of scope. जब स्कोप से बाहर जाता है तो ऑब्जेक्ट ऑटोमेटिकली डिस्ट्रॉय हो जाता है, और डिस्ट्रॉय होने से जस्ट पहले कौन सा मेंबर फंक्शन कॉल हो जाता है? __del__. It is equivalent to destructor of C++. See here in this example we have already written def__del__. Here you will usually what you will write here? Cleanup operations. Like if you are writing a program of file handling, okay, what rule says? You should open a file in the init method and you should close a file in the del method, because this init is the first method which is invoked implicitly whenever an object is created, and del is the last method which invoke implicitly whenever an object is destroyed. So usually init is used to initialize the data member of a class, whereas del is used for cleanup operation, like we have just taken example of a file handling. Fine. Any doubt you can ask me. Init method is similar to constructor function of the C++ and Java, whereas __del method is similar to destructor of C++. So these are the two special type of member function, init and del, in Python, which is used to initialize the data member of a class. Init is used to initialize, whereas del method is used for cleanup operations like file handling, to close the file just going outside the scope. Fine. Any doubt you can ask me. Let's recap. There are two ways to initialize an object. First one is using get data or set data, and second one is using a special method __init__. What is init? Init is a special kind of member function which invoke implicitly whenever an object is created. What is the basic difference between set data and init? The only difference is set data is explicitly called, whereas init is implicitly called. Second difference, set data can return some value, whereas init cannot return some value. This is the only two differences. Otherwise both are what? Both are member function. Set data and init is both are member function, and usually both member functions are used to initialize the object or used to initialize the data member of a class. The basic difference between set data and init is set data is explicitly called, whereas init is implicitly called. Second difference, we can call set data n number of times, whereas with a particular object I can add e dot set data 10, e dot set data 20, e dot set data 30, but init only calls once. Why? Because it is called whenever an object is created, और object कितने बार create होगा, एक ही बार create होगा. Another difference, set data can return some value whereas init cannot return some value. Why? Because where you will receive the value from where the function call is made, जहाँ से आप फंक्शन कॉल करते हो वहीं पे वैल्यू को आप रिसीव करते हो. तो सेट डेटा को जहाँ कॉल करोगे वहाँ पे आप उसकी वैल्यू, अगर वो सेट डेटा कोई वैल्यू रिटर्न कर रहा है तो उसको आप रिसीव कर लोगे. बट इन केस ऑफ इनिट दिस इज इम्प्लिसिटली कॉल, इसको आप एक्सप्लिसिटली तो कॉल कर नहीं सकते हो. जब इम्प्लिसिटली कॉल कर हो रहा है तो रिटर्निंग ए वैल्यू वुड नॉट मेक एनी सेंस. फाइन. It is usually used to initialize the data member of a class. This is a small example. We have already discussed class number. Here we are having init method with a equal to 5. This is a default argument. What is default argument? It's a value which is automatically inserted if we are not passing at the time of function call. Fine. Here we are having class employee. This is set data. This is display data, and this is init method, and this is del method. So when I write e1 equal to employee, init method will implicitly call, it will initialize a with null, b equal to 0, and age will be 0 and salary will be 0. Fine. Then I can write e1 dot set data ram 25 and 10,000, which will initialize name, age and salary, and e1 dot display you will get the output ram 25 and 10,000. Same with the case of e2. These are certain points that we have already discussed. If any doubt you can ask me, I will try to reply. Okay, thank you very much.